I'm going to give you an easy-to-use four-stage process that's going to allow you to take your curriculum vitae, a large amount of information, and hone it down to the relevant information that an employer is going to want to see. The first step is simply going to be brainstorming, and the good news is if you've got a curriculum vitae, you've got a large amount of information available to you already. You can do some more brainstorming. You can think about any other types of relevant work experience that you've had, full-time, part-time, paid, unpaid, volunteer shadowing, anything else that you could pull onto the resume document that would specifically highlight something about a particular job you're interested in applying for. So your brainstorming can be not only what's already on your vita, but take a minute to think about what else you might want to add to that. Now here's the bad news. You've got this great vita, this long piece of information, very comprehensive. You're going to have to let go of some of it because not all of that information is going to make it onto the resume. Typically on a resume you don't see anything about publications, presentations, conferences attended. That information is going to drop off unless you're applying for a position that's going to be in an academic or scientific area where you feel that would be of interest to them, or the job posting specifically asks, have you done presentations before at a state or national level? Are you involved in particular groups? A lot of that information you're going to have to let go of for the purposes of the resume. So after we do that brainstorming, after we look through that CV information and give some consideration to any other work experience that we've had or any other types of experiences we've had that could be relevant, we begin to organize that information. That's our second step. Only some of the information is going to make the cut. Now I've already talked about some areas that are going to drop off of the CV and not make it onto the resume. But this is where we really think what is relevant to the reader. Because it could be that a job that you did is too far outside that field. It's not going to be relevant to the reader. We might have to let that one go. We need to think, are the duties relevant? Are the skills transferable? And are the experiences positive? Because remember, the CV is a full list of professional and educational accomplishments. We don't have room on the resume for a full list. We've really got to hone it down and only keep and organize the most relevant experiences. The third step that we're going to take is once we have that vast amount of information organized a bit, we're not only have to cut some things out, we got to cut them down a little bit. So as you can see on this slide, this is a lengthy description from a CV about a work experience that somebody had. It's quite long, it uses a personal pronoun, and it is a very comprehensive description. This is not something that you would see on a resume. So we'd have to take this information and cut it down. You have about 15 to 20 seconds to grab a resume reviewer's attention. So whatever's most relevant has to be in the top half of the first page of your resume. If they're most interested in education, get that up there front and center. If they're most interested in some type of work experience or lab experience, you make sure that that's highlighted up front and center. You can go over onto a second page because if you hook in a prospective employer on the first page of the resume and they like what they're seeing, they'll flip the page and keep reading. But you got to get the most relevant information up front, which means every sentence has to say a lot and there can't be a whole lot of verbiage on there. So this particular blurb from the CV might be cut down to look like this on a resume. And as you can see, it's much shorter, but it quantifies for the reader how many clients they worked with, in what period of time, and how much revenue they raised. So quantifying is a great way to do it. You want to be sure to use numbers, percents, dollars wherever possible because you're painting a picture in the reader's mind about what you're doing. You are not there to speak for that document. You are not there with the wealth of information on your vita anymore. You are just providing that 1 to 2 page resume. So you've got to really paint a picture with what you put on there. And that's a great way to do it, is using the quantifying and focusing on the skills as well. So continuing that third step, refining stage, we are going to start a resume with contact information. That's pretty straightforward: name, address, contact phone numbers, emails. If your email is not professional sounding, either use your student email address or get an email address at a Yahoo or a Gmail account. You might have a profile statement on there A profile statement isn't a place for you to list information that's found elsewhere on the resume or to talk about your personal traits. It's a place to highlight unique skills that you have that employer has said in that job posting that they are looking for. So don't list a bunch of personal traits. Don't talk about your education, because the very next section is the education section. You don't need to have it in the profile and in the education area. You've probably heard of an objective statement before. An objective statement is normally written from the perspective of the person writing the resume. So it's about what they want. It's what the job seeker wants. This has some mixed response for hiring managers. Some people say they like it because it helps them see right up front whether this person's focused on what they have and the job they have to offer. Others say no, it's not relevant to me because it's not talking about meeting any of the needs I have as an employer. I personally prefer the profile statement because it gives you a chance to market yourself and highlight the skills that you have that they're looking for. So you're going to have your contact information, profile or objective. Your education section is going to be listed there. Take out the title of your dissertation, take out the name of your mentor, unless that mentor is somebody highly well known in that particular field that you are applying for a position in. If that name could open doors for you, leave it on. Otherwise, you take it off. It's not typically found on a resume. Now, your qualifications or experience section is going to start next. You're going to remove titles and descriptions of courses that you've taught. We're not going to have lengthy descriptions of courses you have taught. You can summarize it broadly if it is relevant, if there is teaching experience required for that particular job. What you're not going to include, I'm going to mention this again, what you're not going to include on the resume are any conferences attended, presentations given, academic papers published, only if relevant to the job. And you're also not ever going to have references listed on your resume either. Have those ready in a separate document, and if the prospective employer requests those, you'll have them ready to give to them so they can check those.